Yeah, so obviously the mayor said quite a bit, and we can talk about individual pieces of that if you want. I was glad to see that they recognized some of the mistakes, failures that the city had made during this process, and moving forward.
I'm curious, kind of one of the most, I don't know if I want to say dramatic, but one of the moments that really stood out is he kind of addressed the community and said, hey, directly to the FOP, you are either with us or you are against the community. I encourage you to get on board. What do you make of that direct statement from the
Yeah,
mayor?
so first of all, let me tell you who the Fraternal Order of Police is. It's not me. It's every police officer that wants to join in Franklin County. So not just Columbus Police or the Sheriff's Office, all the suburban agencies. That's who the Fraternal Order of Police is. And as far as us being with the community, we have always stood with the community. During this entire thing, our message has been very clear that we support the rights of peaceful protests, and we also support the good citizens that are trying to drive downtown are being victimized and surrounded their vehicles, the businesses have been destroyed. We want to stand up for them. So we've always been with the community. And we will continue to be with the community.
Do you find that an odd statement from him, or how do you guys take that? I mean, is there kind of this gap bridging between, his office and the FOP or police in the area?
Well, I think it's been pretty clear. I mean, I think we've asked for direction. We've put statements out asking for direction down there. It's tough times for the officers down there. They're looking for clarity on a lot of issues so they can effectively do their job to protect themselves and the citizens that we took an oath to protect. I think the citizens deserve those answers as well. And so, yeah, we're trying to get some of these answers from them.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask you as well. I know in the past we've heard, maybe there wasn't a lot of clarity. How exactly should do we want, how exactly does the city want police to react or to interact with protesters? Do you feel like the situation has been clarified?
No, I think there was something that came out this morning. I haven't read it yet. I'm not sure what it is. I was told, but the bottom line is this: if you're going to create policy saying you can't do this, then you should be part of the solution on what you should do, and that's the part we're waiting on. And that's the part, in fairness to every police officer down there in difficult times, in fairness to the peaceful protesters that are exercising their rights down there, and to the good citizens of Columbus that just want to travel through the city without being terrorized.
Yeah. Do you guys have clarity how to interact with people who might be on the road?
No, I don't think we do. I think that's a very legitimate question to ask. Is the definition in this city a peaceful protest if you stand in the road? Is that okay? To surround vehicles? I mean, I believe there's certainly laws that address that, but I'm not sure what policy or political stance the city is taking towards that. And I think the citizens and the officers, again, both deserve that clarity.
I'm curious, so, and I don't know how much you can speak to this, but some of the big things we've heard from him, they want to review the city's overall response to protests, having an independent investigator do that. They want an independent law firm to review complaints that might need administrative discipline, and then have an outside law enforcement entity review complaints that might require criminal charges against officers. Is that anything you're aware of? I mean, would that even be contractually possible?
I'm not sure what he means by all that, to be very honest. I know that there is already a process that's in place where individuals are investigating it, but as far a lot of those things, I'm not exactly sure what he means by that.
So essentially, we need more information to know whether or not it's even possible with a contract or is that safe to say?
Yeah, if you get that information, you can share it with us. It would be wonderful.
Okay. And I know you mentioned at the beginning, glad to see them recognize some of the failures on the part of the city. What do you, could you tell us what you really think some of those big things are?
Well, I think we talked about it. The communication to the citizens, to the police department in good direction, not just providing policy change, what you can't do, but solutions. If you're going to get in the business of creating policy for the police, I think you should create solutions for them as well. You can't just give them half of that. And that's the clarity we've been looking for, and hopefully we're working towards that.
How much have you talked with the mayor?
So I talked to the mayor right after I did a press conference. I believe the first weekend this happened, he called me. He reached out to me this morning 2 or 3 hours before his press conference and asked to have a meeting or responded to my request to have a meeting.
How did that conversation go?
It was cordial. Certainly the fraternal order police has always been in the position that we want to talk and we want to listen. I think it's important to listen and learn to everyone's input, whether it's the community, which we're engaging in right now, as well as the mayor and elected officials. But I think it's fair that they hear our concerns as well. I think that's how you make educated, smart decisions for the public and for the officers.
Will you guys be having a meeting?
Yes, we will.
Anything you want to say to maybe folks in the community that, feel like the response by police hasn't, been what they would want it to be?
In what way? Because I don't know which way you mean.
Sure. Obviously when we're at protests, we hear all kinds of different opinions.
Sure.
Sometimes folks feel that the, police might be targeting people that are peaceful or, maybe being too harsh with, mace or anything of that nature. Is there anything you want to say to those folks that feel, the response is maybe too aggressive?
Yeah, well, I guess depending on, what circumstances you're talking about, it is difficult in a situation. The mayor acknowledged this today, I believe, and I think that's important, that, you've got peaceful protesters, so I clearly said we support their rights, and then you have people engaging in criminal activity and violent criminal activity, and to try to separate in large crowds and deal with that is difficult. We're looking for guidance. Our officers out on the front lines are looking for that guidance so that they can effectively do that. The last thing we want to do is impede the rights of someone to peacefully protest. But we certainly can't get assaulted in the process. We can't allow fires to be set at broad and high, or damage to property is our position. That is just something that we took an oath to support, to not let those things happen.
I'm scrolling through my notes now. Anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. Obviously, the mayor brought up, when he's talking about with us or against us, we have always, he referenced the Citizen Review Board. Okay, he didn't go into detail what that means exactly, so that, the details are always important. I will tell you the Lodge and the FOP and all the officers, we are all in a position where we will always listen and engage in those conversations for learning. But I think a couple things are important to differentiate and listen. Obviously, the mayor has had the ability to negotiate, those things in the past. Right here is our contract that we signed and agreed upon. That's the mayor's signature. That's my signature. We both agreed on this language in here. Everything that we do, this isn't just the fraternal order police, the officers dictating this. That's the mayor agreeing to with the wording in there now. So to come out and act like the fraternal order police or the officers is who we are, has not agreed on things. We absolutely have, and I'll give you a great example. Body-worn cameras. Okay? That was for transparency. The public wanted that. The fraternal order police, the police officers, agreed to that. We signed off on that. We wear those, and because we were comfortable with transparency. We just want to make sure there's reasonableness involved in all of that, and it's a fair process for the citizens and us, and still provide transparency. Because we were able to work with the city and have those discussions, I think that's how we get to those places, not just by doing things arbitrarily without having those discussions. Well, in regards to with the mayor, or just in general?
In general, just to, move forward as a community to kind of give you an opinion.
So, yeah, I will address that absolutely, the community. What we want is for peaceful protests. We don't want violence. We don't want to use mace or any of those things against the public. But there's laws, we have rules, and we have people we have to protect. We want that all to stop. And then let's engage in some discussion, some honest discussion. And let's listen to all sides of that and talk about things. So you talk about citizen review boards, and I think this is why the discussion is important. Minneapolis has a citizen review board. They spend, I am told, $700,000 of taxpayer money for that citizen review board. I'm not so sure many people are going to say that's very successful there. Chicago, citizen review board. $13 million, I'm told, of taxpayer dollars to support that. And I don't know that anyone would argue Chicago's doing that great in a lot of ways with their crimes and everything else that they have there. So what I would say to that is, before we just make these statements, and I've said this before, we need to listen and learn And we need to understand, hey, look, maybe that's not the way. We need to do things the Columbus way. We need to look things outside of the box and find things that work, because we know these things aren't working in other places. So the fraternal order police wants to engage in good, honest communication and find the Columbus way to do it that actually works.
I don't agree. How are officers doing?
It's a very rough time to be a police officer right now. It's difficult. It's always a difficult job. We know there's dangers to it. But when you don't feel you have the backing to do your job by the administration, and you're not getting good guidance on what you should or shouldn't do, that's a scary time for a police officer. And, it is, the morale is extremely low. There's problems, within the community. I was told we've held runs, a large amount of runs. There's some reports, I haven't verified it, that over 100 runs were held last night, meaning 100 different people called the police throughout the city, and we were not able to respond because we were down there dealing with people committing acts of violence against the police or whoever down there. That's 100 calls, whether they're domestic violence calls, could be anything. And so the citizens of Columbus that live in those communities that are law-abiding people deserve that protection. They deserve the opportunity for police to engage in community policing in their neighborhoods, to get to know them, to build that relationship. And as a result of this, and the confusion and the way we've handled this situation, those people are losing that opportunity, and those citizens deserve that. So we absolutely stand with the citizens of Columbus on many fronts.
And that's something else that brings to mind. The mayor talked a lot about potentially shifting some traditional police roles to maybe more of a civilian doing something. And he kept making the point, we ask our police to be everything. We ask you to be a social worker, and maybe a writing job. I mean, how is that even possible? I mean, is that something that you guys...
So I actually agree with the mayor to some degree on this. I mean, the police have absolutely been put in roles of doing everything. I mean, we are social workers, we're mental health workers, we're all these things. And there are very fine professionals that are social workers and mental health workers in this community that can do some of those things instead of us doing it. How that works out, we already have programs here in Columbus. Why? Because Columbus is better. We're ahead of the game. And we've already got programs in place where we actually have mental health experts with us to help some of these situations. So I think some of those programs are great ideas. It doesn't take away the need for the police, because even if you say, okay, they're going to be handling this amount of runs, what if they are in danger when they go there? And some of these people may not feel comfortable without the police with them anyway in those situations, and understandably, and we want to be there for them. So it's very important you still have your police force there for those things. But I think there's a lot of things we are required to do that really isn't directed to law, just by nature of the world. And we are sent in to deal with every crisis known to society. The police are sent in. And because of failures of government for not addressing these situations in these communities, we're sent in a situation that we're almost set up for failure every time. And I do agree. We need to spread the wealth out there, and for other professional individuals to handle some of these things, and for the administrations to take responsibility for these communities and not send us into a situation that we're really not there for. One other thing, I guess, there were some discussions about, I think today or at some point, about hiring, policies, and diversity. And let me make something very clear. The fraternal order police, the police officers that serve in Columbus and all of Franklin County, which is who the fraternal order police is, we don't hire anyone. We don't fire anyone. We don't set the standards to be a Columbus police officer. We don't set the training that Columbus police officers get. As a matter of fact, we encourage training highly. We send people on their own dime to training, is how important we think it is. We set none of those things. That is all up to the mayor, city council, and elected officials. So let's be clear. If there's problems in here when it comes to those things, that has nothing to do with us and everything to do with them and their ability to make those changes.